As we begin today, a couple things to keep in mind. First is that the next reflection paper is due on Thursday, so make sure to complete that. The second thing is that the study guide for the next exam, which is a week from Thursday, is available on Blackboard. And I said the reflection paper was due on Thursday. It's due on Friday. I'm sorry. It's due on Friday the 13th. I think we have Class A for Fool's Day. But anyway, so Friday for the reflection paper, next Thursday for the study guide, for the second exam. So make sure to take a look at that. Should be very similar in format, in types of questions as the first exam. So you should be in good shape, but if you have questions, by all means get in contact with me. And so it'll cover chapters 8 through chapter 16 is what the exam will cover. All right, so today we are in chapter 13. Picking up now kind of where we left off before the week-long break. And probably in one sense, at least parts of this chapter are one of the things about Revelation that a lot of people are interested in. A lot of people have heard about. Even if they haven't read Revelation, the idea of the beast and the mark of the beast and specifically the number of the beast's name, something that a lot of people have speculated about, if not been overly concerned about. And so we'll hopefully get to that point today, talk about that, talk about some of the options, and maybe even make a suggestion about what it might represent. So let's go ahead and start with a reading of chapter 13. And actually, if we really want to pick it up, we need to pick up with verse 18 of chapter 12, because that's where the paragraph break is, even though the chapters are somewhat different. And so if I could have somebody read chapter 12, verse 18 through, let's see, through verse 8 of chapter 13, and then somebody else 9 through 18 of chapter 13. Not everybody at once, please.
My translation has verse 18.
Does it have verse 18? What's it say from the beginning of verse 1?
Then I scared I was standing to see.
Okay, well that's verse 18. All right. So in that case, all of you all using poor translation. So 1 through 9, and then somebody else 10 through 18.
Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his head a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and on the deadly wound was healed. And all of the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshipped the dragon, who gave authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and overcome them, and authority was given over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundations of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear.
If anyone is destined for captivity, to captivity he goes. If anyone kills with the sword he must be killed. Here is the perseverance and the faith of the saints. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. He exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and he makes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose fatal wound was healed. He performs great signs so that he even makes fire come down from out of heaven to the earth in the presence of men. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which it was given him to perform in the presence of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast, who had the wound of the sword and has come to life. And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, for the image of the beast will even speak and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And he causes all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free men and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. And he provides that no one will be able to buy or to sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who is understanding calculate the number of the beast. For the number is that of a man, and his number is 666.
All right, so we have here at the beginning, and we've already kind of touched on it, by this question of, is there a mythical verse 18 or not? There's a little bit of a manuscript difference here over who is it that is standing. Because the translation that Matt read was, I stood. But if you have a different translation, NIV, maybe even, I'm not sure about this, but probably the ESV as well, it says, the dragon stood. Which, you know, that's quite a difference between John and the dragon, because the dragon again represents the devil, Satan. So there's a difference between the devil and John. What appears to be the better reading is the dragon, or he actually is what it says, and he stood on the sea. And so it's most likely referring to the dragon kind of taking his stand. Now essentially if we were reading through this like it was meant to be read, where you would start at the beginning and go the whole way through, we would remember what we're talking about. But since we have this week break, we have to kind of refresh our memories back to chapter 12. Having been cast out of heaven, having failed to kill the woman, the dragon attempts to go after the children of the woman. And to do that, he brings up, or he gives authority to, two beasts. Right? So it comes on the heels of chapter 12, this dragon who is now furious because of his loss. And essentially what we have here is kind of a counterfeit trinity. Right? But instead of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we have here the dragon and the first and second beast. And throughout chapter 13, quite a bit we'll see these imitations or parodies of characteristics of God or Jesus reflected in some of the things that the dragon or the beast do, or how they look. The other thing to keep in mind as we really begin and get started here is that to really understand a lot of what's going on, you have to understand Daniel chapter 7. And so we need to go back to Daniel chapter 7 and take some time to go through that chapter. And then we'll come back to chapter 13 and see how this is related. I'll go ahead and read Daniel chapter 7, and we can talk about it a little bit, and then use that to found our grounding or ground our discussion of chapter 13. So this is Daniel chapter 7. In the first year of King Belshazzar of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head as he lay in bed. Then he wrote down the dream. I, Daniel, saw in my vision by night the four winds of heaven stirring up the great sea. And four great beasts came up out of the sea, different from one another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. Then, as I watched, its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a human being, and a human mind was given to it. Another beast appeared, a second one, that looked like a bear. It was raised up on one side, had 3 tusks in its mouth among its teeth, and was told, Arise, devour many bodies. After this, as I watched, another appeared like a leopard. The beast had 4 wings of a bird on its back, and 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this, I saw in the visions by night a 4th beast, terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth and was devouring, breaking in pieces, and stamping what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that preceded it, and it had 10 horns. I was considering the horns when another horn appeared, a little one coming up from among them. To make room for it, 3 of the earlier horns were plucked up by the roots. There were eyes like human eyes in this horn, and a mouth speaking arrogantly. As I watched, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his throne. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames, and its wheels were burning fire. A stream of fire issued and flowed out from his presence. 1,000,000 served him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood attending him. The court sat in judgment, and the books were opened. I watched them because of the noise of the arrogant words that the horn was speaking. And as I watched, the beast was put to death, and its body destroyed and given over to be burned with fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away, but their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. As I watched in the night visions, I saw one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven. And he came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. To him was given dominion and glory and kingship, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that shall not pass away, and his kingship is one that shall never be destroyed. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was troubled within me, and the visions of my head terrified me. I approached one of the attendants to ask him the truth concerning all this. So he said that he would disclose to me the interpretation of the matter. As for these 4 great beasts, 4 kings shall arise out of the earth, but the holy ones of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever. Then I desired to know the truth concerning the 4th beast, which was different from all the rest, exceedingly terrifying, with its teeth of iron and claws of bronze, and which devoured and broke in pieces, and stamped what was left with its feet. And concerning the 10 horns that were on its head, and concerning the other horn which came up, and to make room for it, which 3 of them fell out. The horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke arrogantly, and that seemed greater than the others. As I looked, this horn made war with the holy ones, and was prevailing over them, till the Ancient of Days came. Then judgment was given for the holy ones of the Most High, and the time arrived when the holy ones gained possession of the kingdom. This is what he said. As for the 4th beast, there shall be a 4th kingdom on earth, that shall be different from all the other kingdoms. It shall devour the whole earth, and trample it down, and break it to pieces. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings shall arise, and another shall arise after them. This one shall be different from the former ones, and shall put down 3 kings. He shall speak words against the Most High, shall wear out the holy ones of the Most High, and shall attempt to change the sacred seasons and the law. And they shall be given into his power for a time, 2 times, and half a time. Then the court shall sit in judgment, and his dominion shall be taken away, to be consumed and totally destroyed. The kingship and dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the holy ones of the Most High. Their kingdom shall be an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey them. Here the account ends. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts greatly terrified me, and my face turned pale, but I kept the matter in my mind. So Daniel sees this vision, and in this vision he sees 4 beasts. Each of these 4 beasts represents what? A kingdom, right? And so Daniel's kind of given a vision of 4 successive kingdoms that will take place on the earth. Each of them represented by what? One of these beasts, right? One that looks like a lion, one that looks like a bear, one that looks like a leopard, and then this 4th beast, which is too terrifying for Daniel to really give us too much of an account of. So these 4 beasts, or at least parts of them, show up in Daniel chapter 13. Or not Daniel, Revelation 13. There's only 12 chapters in Daniel to begin with, but right? Revelation 13, right? Because the beast has qualities of a leopard, qualities of a bear, qualities of a lion. So understanding that here's this vision that Daniel has about these kingdoms, and this last kingdom that's going to stand against God, against the servants of God, is very important as a background to what John is seeing here, right? And so the 2 are very parallel. And so it's important for us to kind of make that connection there to see what's going on in this passage. Because, as we read just a moment ago, back in Revelation 13, John sees a beast rising out of the sea. Right now, think about this, right? Put yourself there with John. It's almost as if you get that moment when the great sea monster slowly starts rising out of the sea, right? This is what John is seeing. The sea's starting to bubble and boil, and then here comes this horrible-looking beast. The beast has 7 heads and 10 horns. Exactly how that all works out, right? So some of the heads have more than one horn. And on his head, well, on the horns, I should say, are 10 diadems. Now, one of the things to immediately connect this beast with is that, obviously, kind of the dragon is the one calling it forth. But if you look back at chapter 12, particularly verse 3, the dragon has 7 heads and 10 horns. Although he only has 7 diadems or crowns as opposed to the beast having 10 crowns. And so there's a visual similarity here between the dragon and the beast. Right? So, if you didn't already understand that the beast isn't on the good side, and there's enough depiction here to tell you, right, this is the one that he's on the wrong side. The other thing to connect him with is chapter 17. Now, chapter 17 talks about a woman, a prostitute. But she sits on a scarlet beast who has 7 heads and 10 horns. But note what verse 9 says, or verse 9 and 10. This calls for a mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. Also, they are 7 kings, of whom 5 have fallen, 1 is living, and the other has not yet come, and when he comes, he must remain only a little while. Now, I believe, and a lot of other commentators believe, I'm not the only one here, that these 2 beasts are the same. The first beast and the beast of Revelation chapter 17. I could understand somebody suggesting, no, they're 2 different beasts, but it just seems like there's so much similarity, right? The 7 heads, the 10 horns, and some of the other things that we'll see when we get to chapter 17, which suggests that the first beast and the beast of chapter 17 are the same, which means that these heads represent kings as well as hills, which will become important for identification later on. So 10 horns, 7 heads, 10 diadems, and on its head also were blasphemous names. Now, what are these? I don't ask you that to tell me blasphemy, but by saying it's got blasphemous names on it, what's blasphemy? What's being suggested here by these names that are apparently on this beast's head?
Either offensive to God or directly claiming to be God.
Yeah, so the idea of blasphemy is it's offensive to God or it's claiming to be God, right? So there's this claim of deity that the beast is making.